I've got a very interesting book with me today. It's called Secrets of Health from the Indian Kitchen. It's written by Ratna Rajaiah. So, as the name suggests, the book is about Indian food. It starts with the idea of health and how important a role food plays in that, especially the value of nutrition in our food. But in the modern world, so often we stress on the nutritional value, the minute things on it, and we miss the whole point, which is pretty much the philosophy of yoga, that we go for something more comprehensive. So it's not just about which particular nutritions you're taking, but it's also about where they're coming from and how you're consuming them. For example, if you're taking calcium, that makes sense, but it doesn't make a lot of sense if you're not taking it with phosphorus or magnesium, and most importantly, vitamin D, which is essential in digesting calcium. But that is still the nutritional aspect of it. The broader argument that the author makes here is about the lifestyle and consuming different kinds of foods in different seasons, and how we can derive all of that from our own culture, on our own traditions. So in this book, the author, one by one, she goes into different food items and explores their history, their nutritional value, all the stories that you would find interesting. So I'm sure when you pick this book, you're going to read all those stories and derive a lot of valuable information in terms of health. And for this podcast, I will narrate certain sections from the book. It's from the chapter called Rice. And no surprises for guessing, it talks about rice. So here we go. Rice, ancient, sacred, benevolent, nourishing rice. It has fed us humans for far longer than any other food in the world. And today, it provides more than 1/5 of the calories that the world consumes, making it the second most eaten cereal grain in the world. Maize is the most consumed grain, but if we take into account that much of this consumption is by animals, rice becomes the most eaten cereal. In many Asian cultures, rice is a synonym for food itself. For example, in Sanskrit and in Kannada, the generic word for food is also the word for cooked rice, anna. In Japanese, the word for a meal is gohan, which is also meant for cooked rice. In Mandarin, the word for rice is fan, which once again is also the word for food. Perhaps the reason for this is because Asia is where thousands of years ago we humans first tamed a grass and turned it into a staple food that would ultimately feed over half of the world's population. However, what is a matter of ongoing debate is where exactly in Asia. The ancestor of the rice we eat today was a wild grass that most probably grew in the supercontinent of Gondwana land at least 130 million years ago. From this ancient grass, two mother species evolved and they parented the approximately 120,000 varieties of rice that grow all over the world today, staple for more than half the world's population. An astonishing 20,000 of these varieties come from India. In fact, the Shunya Purana, written by the 13th century Bengali poet Ramay Pandit, mentions more than 50 varieties of rice growing in Bengal. The cultivation of rice by man is said to have happened at least 15,000 years ago in a region that stretches from northeast India through Burma, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and into the southern China. Evidence of this is scattered in several archaeological sites all across this vast area. But the question that has been the center of a long feud is who cultivated it first, the Indians or the Chinese? Those who think it was the Indians cite the fact that remains of cultivated rice have been found at the archaeological site at Koldiwa near Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh, dating back to anywhere between the 4th and the 7th millennium BC. That would make rice cultivation in India at least 6,000 to 9,000 years old, or even older if one is to take into account the terraced fields of Kashmir. These fields are typical of rice cultivation and they date back to 10,000 BC. So perhaps rice was grown here? More recent archaeological finds seemed to tilt things in favor of the Chinese camp. Rice remains dating to 8000 BC were found at the Chiahu archaeological site in the Henan province of central China, and even early evidence going back to at least 12,000 years was discovered at the Yuchanyan archaeological site in the Hunan province of southern China. Then in 2003, archaeologists found 59 burnt rice grains in the village of Sorori in the Chungbuk province in South Korea, which they dated as being about 15,000 years old. But whether it originated in India or not, for Indians, rice is inextricably intertwined with every aspect of life. For Hindus, rice, anna when it is cooked, and akshata when the raw grain is used, is one of the most sacred of foods, and no puja or ritual is complete without its presence and offering. As laid down in the Griha Sutra during Annaprasanna, the ceremony of feeding an infant its first solid food, the child is fed a sweet preparation of rice and milk. During the Namakarna or christening ceremony, the child's name is announced by writing it in rice grains that have been spread out on a thali, and it is considered auspicious to begin a child's first lesson by making it trace an alphabet in rice. The Shukraniti, a medieval treatise on public policy comprising of 2575 Sanskrit shlokas, prescribed rice as a means of determining guilt. During this Divya Sadhana or divine test, the suspect was given a handful of raw rice and asked to chew it. The reasoning was that because fear and apprehension would make the mouth dry, the guilty person would not be able to masticate the rice. So, for many Indians, rice is like a parent. We know it from infancy, and its presence in our lives is so all-pervading that to devote just one chapter to it is like trying to fit the Bhagavad Gita on a grain of rice. But then a book on Indian food without a section on rice would be like pulao or biryani without rice in it. So I would like to present one of the simplest yet most delicious and nutritious avatars of this beloved grain. It is called juk or zhu or cheng in China, zuk in Korea, chaobao in Vietnam, lugao in Philippines, okayu in Japan, khao gung in Thailand. But its most popular name is of Indian origin. Konji, which comes from the Tamil word kanji. I speak, of course, of that wondrous, marvelous broth, the gruel made by cooking rice in 4 to 6 times its volume of water till it takes on a thick porridge like consistency. Incidentally, kanji also refers to the starchy water that is drained off after rice is cooked. It can be served piping hot or cold, freshly cooked or fermented overnight. It can be eaten with almost anything: eggs, fish, chicken or shrimp, mushrooms, bamboo shoots, or any vegetable, from bitter beans to brinjal. And sometimes even with milk, cows, or the milk from a coconut. It can be flavored with myriad ingredients: sesame seeds, roasted peanuts, dates, ginger, chili paste, garlic, black pepper, cumin, roasted red chilies. Or then it can be gobbled up just by itself, with nothing to accompany it other than a spoonful of ghee and a few pinches of salt. Savory, sweet, or sometimes even sour. Eaten for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or in between as a delicious, nourishing snack. When the body is sick or cold or hungry or tired or all of that. When the spirit sags and droops. For digestions as delicate as a baby's or as frail as its grandma's. Medicine, tonic, even aphrodisiac. And today, as global as the United Nations, because kanji has been embraced by the Western nutritionists and gourmet alike. In fact, you'll find kanji on the menu of some of the most posh restaurants from New York to Sydney. For thousands of years, kanji has occupied pride of place in two of the world's most ancient cultures, India and China. Now, almost all scholars and experts say that there is no reference to rice anywhere in the Rig Veda, considered to be the oldest known Indian text. Yet, in the 8th book of the Rig Veda, in the myth of the boar Emusa, a reference to Lord Vishnu's third avatar, Varaha, there is a mention of Odana. Many scholars translate this to mean rice gruel, and if that is the case, then the very first mention of rice in an ancient Indian text is as kanji. In India, kanji has been both poor man's staple and royal fare for centuries. According to the Manasolasa, the monumental encyclopedic work written by the 12th century Chaloyan king Someshwara III, kanjika or fermented rice gruel was eaten as a relish. Kanjika was also a term used for the water in which rice had been cooked and allowed to ferment, and according to the Mana Solasa, the ancestor of the modern dahi vada was made by first soaking the vadas in kanjika and then in curd. Kanjika was also used as a medicine, as a marinade for meats, as well as a preservative to pickle fruits and vegetables. In China, congee was the staple of nobility during the reign of the Han dynasty that ruled China from 206 BC to 220 AD, when archaeologists unearthed the fabulous 2,000-year-old tomb of the Marchioness of Dai, a Han noblewoman. Amongst the bamboo baskets and 51 ceramic containers that they found there, most of them full of food, they also found dings, the special vessels in which congee was both cooked and served. Every year, the Chinese celebrate the 8th day of the 12th lunar month of the Chinese calendar by making a special hot kanji called labazu, meaning 12th month Konji. Many do this mainly to kick off the celebrations of the approaching Chinese New Year. But the original reason, a tradition dating back to more than 1,000 years ago to the Song dynasty, was to commemorate the day when the Buddha, after 6 years of living an ascetic's life and surviving on only one bowl of rice gruel a day, had his first revelation. Naturally, kanji derives all its nourishing and therapeutic values from rice. In Ayurveda, rice is considered one of the earth's first foods. Both the Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita have detailed references to rice, describing at least 20 types of rice by color, fragrance, and shape, including one resembling a bullock's face and another resembling a grasshopper or locust. They also classify rice by seasons, duration of crop, water requirements, nutritional value, medicinal properties, and so on. For example, transplanted rice is referred to as sali, broadcasted rice as vrihi, and summer rice as sashtika. All varieties of sali rice were considered sweet to taste, cooling by nature, easy to digest, and capable of imparting strength. But the red sali was the most valued for its therapeutic properties and was used as a diuretic and tonic and to treat, among other things, fevers and ulcers. And because of this, in Ayurveda, rice is considered the perfect healing food, tranquil, soothing, nourishing, and full of healing. Modern day nutritionists agree with our ancients, but they put it a little differently. First, according to them, rice is one of the easiest foods to digest and completely free from allergens. Secondly, though rice contains less protein than wheat by weight, 7% versus 10% in wheat, the protein in rice is superior to that in both wheat and corn. And this is because of higher amounts of lysine, an essential amino acid that is one of the body's vital building blocks and necessary for calcium absorption. Thirdly, rice has no cholesterol, is low in fat and sodium, and in its unpolished or parboiled form, it is a slow digesting complex carbohydrate, rich in most of the B vitamins and in many of the minerals like iron, magnesium, potassium, and zinc. If that is not the resume of a perfect healing food, then what is? And when this grain, as nurturing as Mother Nature herself, is cooked to become kanji, all its nutritional benefits become available in an even more easy to assimilate and digestible form. No wonder then that in many ancient systems of medicine, kanji is everything from comfort food for the sick to nourishment for nursing mothers, even baby food. In Ayurveda, healing diets are considered absolutely vital during and after Panchakarma treatments. And the list of 64 fortifying foods includes different kinds of rice gruel. Described in great detail, they classified both by the main ingredients used and by consistency. For example, a thin gruel made from rice and water is called mantha, whereas a thick gruel made from any grain including rice is called krushara. Rice gruel is also used to treat many ailments, especially digestive disorders. For example, probably the oldest oral rehydration treatment for diarrhea is in the Sushruta Samhita, kanji water mixed with a little salt. Many of the major Ayurvedic texts, including the Madnapala Nighantu and the Kashyapa Samhita, also mention the therapeutic properties of rice gruel. Congee occupies no less a place of importance in the Chinese medicine chest. By itself, it is used as a tonic to nourish and strengthen various organs, especially those of the digestive system. It is also recommended for lactating mothers to improve the production of breast milk. Medicinally, it is used as a diuretic and as a laxative. But when combined with various other foods, the congee really comes into its own and is used to treat a whole host of ailments like diabetes, high cholesterol, digestive ailments like diarrhea, vomiting, fevers, and also as a tonic to bolster weak constitutions. For example, spinach stalk congee is used to treat the thirst that is a common problem for diabetics, and congee with carrot for intestinal cramps and flatulence. I guess this is why many Chinese claim that congee has the ability to bring back a person from the brink of death. And it is still a practice among many Chinese families to eat congee once a week because it is believed to stave off disharmony. And then there is this whole recipe of kanji, which I'm not going to give it to you here. For that, you'll have to read the book.